While I'm working on the go-kart stuff, I'm gonna post this video, which is different than what I usually do, but it's something I recommend quite often to people when they ask me for advice about doing builds. I call this an R&D video. If I know a project is going to sit and I need to do a bunch of research on it, what I do is I break it down like I have this go-kart so that I can walk around, grab all the info, have a video, and be able to reference it at any point, anytime, from my phone, from my computer, anything like that. So, you guys have asked a bunch of questions about the go-kart. I have a bunch of information I want stored so that I can order parts in the future. So let's see if we can cover all of that. Oftentimes in one of these videos, I'll store information like how I did something just in case I need it in the future. In this case, what I figured out was almost all of the bolts going in were all deformed, screwed up, and basically unusable. Couldn't get a set of vice grips into this, and I decided none of these rubber pieces mean anything to me. So I sliced every single one in half, and then I ground the head off of the bolt and I drove it back through. The other thing that I'll include in this video is not a single one of these bolts all around the back and the sides is reachable from the top. You have to have the cart off the ground, and then you also have to have a bent wrench in order to be able to get on the back side of any of them. The only ones that are reachable from the top are the ones across the front here in order to be able to service the brake and to be able to get to the gas pedal. I figured out that the only reason they were removable here was because they had actually made the safety bracket for, let me see if I can remember which way this goes, right there. They had actually made the safety guard for the really expensive master cylinder into the bumper assembly so that it couldn't get hit and smash this. Also, the rebuild kit, you can order them off of Amazon, but I figured out you have to find out whether it's a 3/4 inch or a 1-inch bore, and both of them use the same size container, so you have to tear it apart in order to find out. We actually just got done rebuilding the one that is on that cart, and it's now all up and running. Other R&D side note, I wasn't able to bench bleed that master cylinder. What I had to do was I actually had to cap off this end, put it under pressure, release the cap here, in order to be able to get this to bleed out, and then from there you bleed it like normal car brakes. Inserting a personal note about the brakes, the line that goes from there to there is a 72-inch 1N 90-degree AN fitting line for a turbo. They are on Amazon for like 26 bucks. The company that built this go-kart sells them for a $100 bill. The next thing that we got asked a lot was the axle. This side of the axle is 1 1/4. This is a 1-inch turn down on this side, and this assembly, this brake caliper and everything, is some sort of 1-inch go-kart front brake assembly. You can actually go online and you can order front brake assemblies that have this in them. And it's about a $400 kit. So not, for the weak of heart. The front spindle is 3/4. But if you notice, this bearing is recessed. And this side is recessed. And what I think they did was they bought normal hubs, but they lathed it and then pushed the bearing in so that you could use a proprietary 2-inch landing area. Because most of them are like in the 3-inch category. And so by lathing this out and pushing the bearings in, they made it so you have to buy their hub. Tricky, tricky. And like I pointed out in the past, this is a universal joint mount going into the pumpkin on certain types of vehicles, and this is just a universal joint that they welded this arm onto for steering. Let me see, what else have we figured out? Those actually don't have any bearings on the inside of them. The plates, it looks as if they just clamped down 2 pieces of plastic, drilled a hole through it, and then undid the clamps and called it good. So I've greased up both of those. The collars are welded on, so you got no choice but to use the mounting assembly that they put in here. On the rear, the drivetrain. So, oh yeah, axles. We figured out that one. No, we figured out this one and the 2 front spindles are 27 millimeter. And this one here, for some reason, is like 1 1/8, which I think has to do with the 1 1/4 inch axle. So we've got this right here. It's got a 3/4 inch hole coming out one end. It's got a 1 1/4 back there. And this is also 1 1/4, obviously screwed up and unusable at this point. And the bolt pattern for this, from here to here, is your standard, I believe it's 5.25, if I remember right, for a 6-bolt sprocket. But if you were to put your engine where they have it, right here, they use a gear reduction, which brings the drive out to here. So if you were to put a torque converter onto this, it would put the gear right here. And as you can see, they did not cut the keyway that far. So either you'd have to put the engine over to get to where their keyway is, or you'd have to cut a keyway into there in order to move this assembly over in order to use an aftermarket gear. Just side notes on the R&D side of this. Body mounts, they have a weird bushing that I still need to look up and see if I can buy in some form, or whether they made these on a lathe also. A lot of the parts on here seem to be something that they deliberately took a lathe to in order to make it so it's proprietary, like those fronts there. Tire size, I got asked a lot. I believe it's 12.4 by 5, and they do run inner tube on the inside. They're not sealed rims. That was another question that came up quite often. The backing is welded into the chassis, and the reason why I'm bringing this one down is so that I can cut it off and extend it to be able to fit another body that I have, and so that's important. This side piece is actually welded up onto the frame rail. So the frame rail actually goes to right about in here, and it's welded up on top of it for some reason. And it's got reinforcements underneath it, and all of them are welded in place, so you're going to have to plasma cut from the underside. I'm actually debating flipping the entire thing over and then plasma cutting those off. Same with the fronts. The fronts are fully welded. All of that is fully welded and boxed in. On the rear, the other question was whether this is welded or bolted. It is entirely welded. And on these corners, all of the underside, as you can hear, all of it is boxed in. That is a solid box with only a small hole drilled right there to be able to put the bumper stop on. Let me see. Anything else I needed for my R&D? Oh, I left one of these on so you could see what I had to do was grind off the head and then hit them with a hammer until they fall off. Oh, speaking of which, so these things, everything on this cart is just a repurposed part that they made proprietary by cutting it up or lathing it. This right here, if you put it this way and you lay it on the ground, is a rubber curve bump thing for a parking lot. So they sell it by the log for $80 a foot, and you can literally go online and buy a log of it 4 foot long for 80 bucks. So good on them for making a hell of a profit, but that's literally all everything is on here, is all just repurpose or laser cut parts. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Also, I'll post a link for the belt that they were using in the rear here. It turns out the cog assembly, you can order the 20 millimeter output. So the belt is a 36 wide, but the cog assembly itself is a 40 millimeter wide. And that's the reason why the searches are so different. Alright, any other notes for future self on this project? The outside, the front bar is made out of spring steel. You can see it in the sparks when you start trying to cut it in half. Removing the outside really was way easier just by cutting the front, cutting the back, and then doing it as 2 halves. Also, the outsides are not conformed perfectly to the cart. So the moment I cut that front edge, the whole thing sprung out and I have a bruise in the side of my foot from it. Otherwise than that, I think that's everything that I wanted included in this R&D video. I know this isn't my usual thing to do in a video, but I wanted you guys to see what I do with every project that's going to sit for a bit. Unfortunately, with Black Friday and everything else going on, everything that I ordered pre-Black Friday has gotten scooped into the Black Friday mix, and now nothing is showing up until December 3rd. So we'll figure out something to do for another video in between, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Jethro, you want to come say bye? Where'd you go? Say bye. Good boy.